Escaping the flames with moments to spare. Dramatic scenes from Lytton, British Columbia earlier this week. And there is growing concern about other fires that are burning right now across the province. Many forecasters are looking at this year's fire season with a growing sense of dread. 2021 could be a bad one. This is a province that has been scorched by brutal fire seasons with increasing frequency. 5 of the 10 most destructive fire seasons in BC history happened in the last 11 years. Scientists have little doubt climate change is playing a role. So, what should we expect in the next few years, and how do we prepare communities? Well, let's bring in a couple of scientists to help us tackle these questions. Our own CBC meteorologist, Johanna Wagstaff, who's in North Vancouver, and fire ecologist Bob Gray is in Kelowna. Hi to both of you.
Hey, Ian.
Good afternoon.
Johanna, let me start with you. You've seen the projections for the coming fire season. What might we expect?
Well, based on our long-range models, the rest of the summer for the West Coast looking hot and dry, I'm afraid. Usually when we get an early heat setup like this, we've never seen anything like this exactly, heat sort of begets heat. So looking hot for the next couple of months, I'm afraid.
And with that heat, is it inevitably there'll be more wildfires, or is it likely we'd get more wildfires?
It's still a function of ignitions, and we can certainly have the setup for very hot, dry conditions, but it still comes down to whether or not we get the fire starts, the ignitions. That's the key.
Here's a question I'm going to put to both of you, and Bob, I'll put it to you first. We hear this term new normal, and there are people who wonder if, all the haze that we've been seeing here in British Columbia during wildfire season, the number of fires, is that the new normal?
We're likely going to see conditions like this not every single summer, but the majority of summers going forward. As far as the normal, conditions are going to continue to change, and in some cases, they'll get much worse. So something to normalize, you have to sort of stabilize things, and that's really not what's going to happen in the future.
And Joe, jump in on that.
Yeah, well, I'm actually going to quote Bob. I've heard him say this before. In the future, there is no smoke option. It's how do we want our smoke? We're going to get it from the south. We're going to get it on our big wildfire years, and we're going to need to get it during prescribed burning. So a smoky future indeed in the cards.
Okay, so a lot of people who are watching this are in places like British Columbia and Alberta, and they're wondering about fire season, and they're wondering, Bob, what can be done to better protect communities? Do you have some suggestions?
Well, we have to start treating landscapes. The broad scale approach to things. So far, our focus has been on rating close to communities within a kilometer or so. But that's the physical threat to communities. But when it comes to the smoke, like we've been talking about, we have to start going very much broader scale, out as far as 5, 10, 15, 20 kilometers in cases. These fires are making runs of significant distances in very short periods of time. Kenow in 2017 in Waterton did a 17K run overnight. So we have to be thinking of broad landscapes.
Johanna, I think about the models of rising water, and I've seen documentaries about communities where they say, 10, 15, 20 years out, it might not be good to have residential areas right on the edge of the water. What about in terms of forest fires? Are there places in BC and Alberta where people just won't be able to live anymore because of the encroaching fires?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and I think that's probably a very real reality in the near future. I mean, the heat really was the setup for the unprecedented wildfires we're already seeing, and we had to get out of our own home here in North Vancouver. I couldn't stay in my own home because the heat was too dangerous. So I think in the very near future, there will be times of the year where people think about getting out. Already, British Columbians don't even plan a camping trip for late summer because the smoke season and the fire season have ramped up in the past few decades. So I think communities are going to start thinking about that change very, very soon.
And Johanna, what about the link between climate change and specifically what we've seen in British Columbia over the last week? What would the answer be to that?
Unequivocally, climate change is behind the unprecedented events that we're seeing. The atmospheric records are being rewritten in front of our very eyes. The heat wave that led up to this, something that meteorologists didn't expect to see this early in the summer, this early in the decade. And I think the question now is just how much did climate change play a role? And I know scientists are going to be running those models, trying to figure out Was it a 30% increase that these events will happen again? It's a non-linear connection, though. It's not just that we're seeing shifting baselines. It's the changes to jet stream, to ocean temperatures. It's a complicated formula, but one that scientists can work out, and the connection is there.
So, Bob, a complicated formula and some pretty big forces at play here in terms of getting the heat up. What about pushing back? What should we do as a country, as a government, to deal with this?
The only thing that we can really control, we can't control the weather, what occurs during fire season. We can't really control where they start, but we can control what burns. We can control the fuel, the vegetation, the biomass. And we're talking millions of tons of material, but we have to find a solution for it. And we're going to have to look at how we market this material and how we create markets for them in the future. But it comes down to basically managing how much is available to burn. That is the driver for smoke. That's the driver for total fire cost. That's the driver for particulate matter and smoke effects on human health. So that's really what we have to focus on, is removing massive quantities of fuel.
And Johanna, we have about 30 seconds. How about last word to you?
It's going to be a busy season ahead, and speaking to other forecasters, I think the takeaway is start your emergency plan for the summer ahead, no matter where you are in the province, no matter where you are in the country, because climate change is ramping things up a lot sooner than we thought.
Johanna, Bob, really nice speaking to you this evening.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ian.